Americans, it seems, were happy. According to Brandmapp's Consumer Insights study, it spoke to about 30,000 people. So what are we worried about? Do we have anything to worry about? Of course we do. Crime topping the list, with corruption coming in a very close second. And where is COVID-19 in all of this? Well, let's speak to the Brandmapp Director. It's always a pleasure to have Brandon de Kock with us. Brandon, hello to you. No real surprise, crime, corruption. So those are the top two steps of the podium. And despite all of that, you're going to tell me that we're still happy, are we?
Morning, Gareth. Yeah, we are. I mean, I think the point about the study that we do is very much about the middle class and up, and it's a particularly resilient group of people. You know, we're finding out more and more as time goes on, and I guess hopefully, unless there's a debt trap of some sort coming, it looks like this middle class and up group. So you're talking about the top 12 million South Africans by income. Looks like they were super resilient through COVID. You know, this group of people didn't all lose their jobs. Maybe like 4% of them lost a job. So they got reason to be happy. But it's interesting still that with this worries thing, like it worries me that we live in a country where COVID, in the middle of a global crisis, COVID only ranks third against crime and corruption. You know, it's quite hectic. It speaks volumes, I think, for some of the issues we face.
Well, I think the crime and the corruption has been historical sadness, hasn't it? I think those memories don't fade very quickly. Brandon, tell me about how this questionnaire came about. How do you ask someone if they're happy? Of course, I'm happy if you give me a cup of coffee and a glass of whiskey, but it doesn't mean I would be any value to your research at all.
Yeah, so it's a very broad metric. I mean, we literally say on a scale from 1 to 5. So if you can imagine, you're answering questions for about half an hour or so. And in the middle of it, sort of unprompted, we just go, just take a second to just try and evaluate. Like right now, on a scale of very unhappy to very happy, how happy are you feeling? So it's a completely spontaneous kind of moment just to click one, it's 1 to 5. And you would expect the majority of people, I guess we would think people are more unhappy than they are, because we landed up with less than, I think it's 7% in total. In total, 7% of people ticked a box saying unhappy or very unhappy. But, you know, the majority of people said, I'm okay, like 38 or 40%. And then 38 or 40% said, I'm happy. And then like 20% said, I'm very happy. So I think that the assumption that just because we live in a fairly traumatized place and just because we worry about a lot of things, we're South Africans. We're quite a resilient mob. You know, we are, we've faced a lot of tough things in our time. So why not be happy? You've still probably got a job, and, you know, you're alive and you're breathing and there's potential. I think that's what the happiness metric's all about.
Especially when you're talking about that middle class and up as well. I think it is a slightly different lived reality, Brandon. I'm sure you'll agree, than those who are dealing with, you know, NSFAS and having to deal with, you know, government support. It's obviously a very different world, which is compared to what the metric we're talking about. Last couple of minutes I have with you. So apart from COVID, corruption, crime, you'll notice they're all C's. Those are our top three steps on the podium. What else surprised you that stood out in the research? Which is the one that Brandon sat back and went, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that?
Oh, so it's a negative, as in it's something that people weren't worried about, and it's the last thing on the list. We put a little tab in saying 5G health risks. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist when it comes to 5G, but I have done my homework, and it's really interesting because, you know, you're talking about a massive global rollout of something relatively untested. It is so off our radar in this country. It's like 6% of people said ticked 5G. You know what I mean? It's like, so I guess what it is when you have these things that are so obsessive in your minds that are constantly with you, the idea of trying to keep up with the news about a new technology rollout that Vladimir Putin won't even impose on his people, you know, and it's not even on our radar. You know, things like that 5G, artificial intelligence, just not on our radar. We're much more concerned with the things that are in our face. And like the other one that's interesting is straight after COVID and government confidence, you've got the future of my children. You know, a really kind of what I would call a more emotional thing, you know.
I would agree as well, especially if you're a parent in this country. Brandon, it's always such a pleasure to speak to you. Brandon de Kock from Brandmapp. He is the director of that. So the top three, the top C's, if you will, in this research. So crime, corruption, COVID. But according to Brandmapp and their research, we're apparently still a happy nation. Good for us.